Up. TheVegasLawyers.com. Lawyer Up.
Good afternoon, this is Tony Abbatangelo, live at Red Chimp Studios for the Vegas Lawyers. Having a little prison talk today. Now last week I did a live Facebook and I had my eye patch on. And the first thing I said was I've had retina reattachment surgery. But a lot of people, why is he wearing a patch? It's not practicing for Halloween, you clowns. It's because I had a surgery. I'm not just doing this for the hell of it. But anyway, let's focus. More important, prison talk. Got my man Lucas McWaters here. Thanks for being on the show, my man.
Not a problem.
He's done 18 years in the Nevada Department of Prisons. Well, actually, some of it was as a juvenile. So let you introduce yourself, and we're just going to have some fun. Feel free to ask some questions. We got some topics we're going to cover that how life is in the Nevada Department of Corrections and prison life. So fire away, Lucas.
Like you said, my name is Lucas McWaters, and in '98, I'll just bust right into it.
Sure.
'98, I was driving drunk. I was a kid, and I was going up to the mountains, and one car rollover, accident, and one car rollover, a buddy of mine died. His name was Steve, and I woke up in the hospital, turned myself in, and got 4 to 17 years for that. So it was
4 to 17. So how do you end up doing 18?
More time
So you had,
after. Yeah.
So you had some trouble as a juvenile.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into that. So you did. Now we're real quick. We'll keep it brief. Where did you do your time at? Up at Spring Mountain?
As a kid?
Yeah.
Spring Mountain, and then again at Elko.
Oh, so you really went up to Elko.
NYTC, yeah.
So you were a party boy.
Yeah. I was.
Pain in the ass.
Yeah, I was. I actually got in trouble while at Spring Mountain and got resentenced and sent to Elko.
And then you get done. You got a DUI, death.
I got done. They let me go 10 days after I turned 18, and I think 3 months later, I got that case.
Wow.
The DUI with the
They hammered you.
3 months. They hammered me. Yeah.
All right, we're not going to get into that, folks. We're not going to get into the sentencing, the facts of that case. What we want to do, because I know I'm interested, and I do criminal defense work. I'm interested in what life is like up in prison. So, Lucas, we met yesterday. We covered some topics. And one of the things that I thought was really crazy was you said there's no corner on the weekends. So how does that affect you? Give me let me know what's up. I let the people know what happens.
No corner on the weekends. And that by that statement, I meant that up at Ely, the max prison, the coroner doesn't work on a Friday or on a Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
So if you have a cellmate who, say, has a heart attack, on a Friday, they're not coming to get him.
He's dead.
He's dead.
So do they drag the COs? The COs are correction officers.
They came and checked him out.
But he's dead.
And to clarify, I wasn't on the yard there. I was right outside of the fence. There's a minimum security building where they put DUIs. Because
what's a UI?
DUI.
Oh, DUIs.
Because we're nonviolent offenders, but so we're minimum custody eligible, but we have a lot of time. For a DUI, 4 to 17, that's a lot. You have a lot to lose. If they just put you at some, camp that's close to a town, guys just hop the fence and go. So they put you somewhere where you're not, anywhere near a town and everything. Ely's a small town, very small town. And
there's also, just for those people listening, that's the maximum security.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's one in Lovelock.
Outside the fence at Lovelock.
Yeah, but now what about Lovelock? I hear half that prison's normal type inmates. The other half are like sex offenders.
See, I don't know, personally, I don't know now what it is because it's changed so much since I've been in. I know that for a while they shut, like Gene was the same way.
That's right. And for everybody listening, Gene is at the state line. If you're heading to Cali, it's on your left, and they put a bunch of money. This is good government spending. They put a bunch of money, refurbished it, fixed it up, and then they don't use it.
They put youngsters on the yard, which was worse than anything else because those guys are the rowdiest ones in a prison.
Yeah, we'll get to the youngsters a little bit. So let's go back to so your roommate or cellmate.
Yeah, his name
was
Jeff.
Cellies.
His name was Jeff, and he had a heart attack.
He died. So when you say
dead.
they check him out, the CO comes by.
The nurse came and everything.
And they're like, dude, you're dead. You're cold.
Yeah.
Done.
Yep, he's toast. Okay.
And then what do they do?
I'm like, all right, cool. So get him out of here. And they were like, well, you afraid of a dead body? I was like, well, I mean, technically no. I mean, what are you afraid of? He's dead. But yeah, well, the coroner doesn't work on a Friday. It was after 5 o'clock on a Friday. Like, he doesn't work on the weekends, so they put a sheet over him and came and got him Monday. They left him there and came and got him Monday.
So you had a dead roommate for 2 days.
Yeah, and it was very weird.
And that happens more than just to you.
That I know of, no. But I mean,
But they're not going to change it.
I know that places like Ely, high desert, which is also heavy security.
Indian Springs.
Out at Indian Springs, you could do 5 years, 100 yards from somebody and not know that they're there. Your brother could be on that yard and you might not know.
Why is that?
Because you're that segregated from everybody else. You're that separated from the rest of the other inmates. Like they don't want you to have contact with people, and Ely was like that. When I ended up on the yard at Ely too, and you could be in a unit next to somebody and never see them, ever.
Wow.
All right, so we got a question.
Yes.
This one's directed towards Lucas. He says, what was the hardest thing about entering the prison system, the adaptation process? What's it like compared to someone who's spent 2 decades, like a guy day one versus a guy?
Okay, so real quick, just so everybody
Yeah.
can hear, the question is, what's like entering? I remember seeing a movie with, what the hell is his name? Ed Norton. And he's like, beat me up, so I look tough going in.
Yeah.
So basically, what's it like going in compared to you've been sitting there for 15 years?
I was kind of a special case because you can tell I'm mixed, but I was,
Wait, when you're mixed, you're black and you're white?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And I was adopted by a white family.
Okay.
So my entire family's from birth. And I grew up in Hawaii. So I didn't even grow up, here, we call it, on the mainland. But
So we got
when I
Asian,
came in,
we got Asian growing up,
yeah,
and also we got blacks, we got whites, and we got the Mexicans.
Yep.
Those are the groups in prison.
that's it.
Right.
It's basically,
So-
1, 2, 3, and other is how
And
they
who's the
classify
one?
everything. 1 is Caucasian.
Two?
2 is black. 3 is Hispanic, and then 4 is other. Everybody else is 4.
And that's how
those are the
people-
only classifications they have in there.
And that's how people hang out in prison.
Yeah.
So let's go back to what the question is, which is, hey, what's it like going into the prison?
For me, it was when I came in, they didn't know what to do really, because I don't, I kind of act like a white guy, and they're like, but you don't look like you're all the way white, and like, who are you going to ride with? And guys knew
who's
me.
asking you these questions?
Inmates.
Right. Okay. Also, let's back up. For that question, when you first go to prison, it doesn't matter which one. You go to the fish tank for 30 days.
Yeah, at
And the
least.
fish tank is what? You wanna
We go to
explain that?
you're not coming out. That's where they figure out who you are, if you're in a gang, who you ride with, if they're gonna have any problems with you, if you have enemies on the yard. They ask you if you have any enemies, and all that stuff is recorded. And for those first 30 days, it's a process, bureaucratic process. It's a bunch of paperwork they have to do. So you're just gonna sit there. You do not come out of your cell. You come out maybe 2, maybe 3 times a week, and that's for 15 minutes. You get handcuffed at your cell. They take you in those cuffs to a shower where they put you in, lock you in,
Shower
then
with the
uncuff
handcuffs?
you. No,
Oh,
they
okay.
uncuff you, and then 10 minutes later they come back, recuff you, take you back to your cell. That's the only time you come out of your room.
And that's for every inmate, right?
That's for every inmate.
And that's what we call the fish tank,
Yeah.
because everybody, not only administration
Yeah.
and correction officers, but the inmates, they're all
Yeah.
watching who's in the fish tank.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to go in there. Any fights or anything like that, or is it?
Typically in the fish tank, no, because the only
You're still
person you'll
locked
ever
down.
see is your cellmate.
Right.
So unless you had a problem with your cellmate, and it doesn't really happen too often. Fish tank, everybody's coming from county. They're if they're new, they're anxious about getting to the yard and stuff like that. So they're just mellowed out. They're just waiting to see where they're going to go, and that's where they classify you too. So you might not stay at that prison. You might go to a max yard. You might go to a minimum yard, a camp, or something like that. You can go anywhere. It depends on what you're classified as, and your custody level. All that says is how much you have to lose.
All right. So from there, let's just presume you're staying at the facility you're at.
Okay.
What happens when you get assigned a cell, right?
Yeah. So they just tell you, they come in, they give you a piece of paper with a unit and a room number on it, say that's where you're going, pack your stuff.
Right.
Pack your shit, you're moving. That's it.
And
They give
away
you a
we
trash
go.
bag. You put all your stuff in a trash bag and you go down to the unit, and they get everybody at once, and you single file, you go down to that unit, and you go to whatever cell is on that piece of paper. And
Let me ask you this. So when you get a cellmate, is your cellmate the same color?
he's supposed to be.
Right. Because why don't we talk a little bit about the rules of the road with how race works? Because
Yeah.
that is a huge factor.
It is.
In
Yeah,
the
that
prison
can cause
system.
a lot of problems, and it caused problems for me. That's
Right,
what
because
yeah.
you're mixed,
Yeah.
like you said.
And I, it didn't matter what I chose. The other side's going to be upset about it. You would figure, So I had some problems right off the jump, but
Well, and that's what we talked about yesterday, and we put on our little promo: fight, fuck, or or hit the fence.
fuck, fight, or hit the fence. That's what they
Right.
say. And a dude named
What
John is
is-
the one who told me that.
yeah,
Double life.
what's that?
Yeah, yeah. A guy named Double Life taught me that one.
Double life?
Yep.
I presume that's because he was doing a double life
Yeah.
sentence.
And not
See,
everybody's as
that's why
sharp
I'm
as
a good-
Tony. Not
that's
everybody's as sharp as Tony.
That's
They're
why
like,
I'm
why
a
are they
good
calling
criminal
him
defense
that?
attorney.
Yeah.
Once again, Vegas lawyers. We want a guy that can figure that out. All right. So, okay. So, fight means what?
Well,
I mean,
at any
prison.
at any time, and this is whether you're locked up or not. Everybody has, and this is what it was explained to me. You have 3 options available to you: fuck, fight, or hit the fence. Fuck means you get with it. You can do what they're asking for. Hey, give me your shoes. You can either give them to them, or you can fight it, or you can hit the fence. You can run, or try to get somewhere.
When you say hit the fence, is that literally like an escape, or just literally running?
No, they're just euphemism. Like you could try to get away. By that, they're probably meaning more like you could PC up, because at any time an inmate can go to the cops.
PC up means?
A protective custody.
And you do and you don't want to be there.
You don't want to be there.
Oh, period.
Period. If you're not.
Protective custody is for who? I mean, I have
sex offenders, people that can't hang on the yard, they can't hack it on the yard. If they owe people money or they're scared that they're going to get beat up or something like that, they'll take off. They'll go to PC.
Snitches.
Yeah. Straight up.
If you and I get arrested and I said, "Hey, Lucas did everything,"
yeah,
I go to PC.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
but not because they just automatically put you there. You have to ask for it. Because there are guys that try to slide through. They'll have fake paperwork. Their PSIs won't reflect it. Like they'll have like a dummy copy of a PSI or try to you look through because everybody has to have their PSI.
And for everybody listening that's not in the criminal justice system, in a state case, if you have a felony, and I don't care if you're getting probation, I don't care if you're charged with getting convicted of murder, you have what's called a pre-sentence investigation report prepared by the Department of Parole and Probation. When I get that, and also my client gets one, whether they're in or out of custody, we go over it.
Yep.
And one of the pages is about prior criminal history. Because if it says you raped and maimed little kids, you're going to be classified in a different place.
Everything you've ever been cracked for, if you've helped the cops and told on your co-defendant or whatever, it will all say so in your PSI. Everything is in there.
As well as you have no charges. Whatever it is, it is.
It'll all be told in there.
And it follows you, meaning if you got a crazy bad record, you've been revoked on probation, you've been revoked on parole.
Yep.
When you go to get parole, they look at your PSI, right?
Yep.
So that's why we make sure as a defense attorney that it's accurate. So you get this PSI, and one thing we didn't talk about is that when you're in the fish tank, because I've had plenty of clients go, dude, I need my PSI.
Yeah.
Because not only the COs and administration looking at it, who else is looking at it?
The inmates.
And what inmates are looking at it?
Because they want to make sure that you're not a rat or a child molester or a sex offender of any sort. Like they want to make sure that you're, on the up and up, I guess, to be on the general population prison yard with them. And they call it protecting the football. There's signs that they look for. You pretty much know if a guy has a messed up PSI or has a messed up charge or something, because they'll be, because you have to keep it. If you go to court and all that, you get a PSI, fold it up, keep it nice and neat, because when you get to prison, they're going to want to see it. And the guys you always know who it is, because they're like, "What? I didn't get one." Like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You got one. We call it protecting the football. They're like, "What?" Yeah, I'll get it right away, and they'll go to their cell to get it, and then all of a sudden you get locked down, and they're like getting escorted out in cuffs.
Well, let me ask you this.
So
Go ahead.
Lucas, give me like a quick 30 seconds on that adaptation process from, oh my God, I'm in jail, to like dealing with it and getting into it.
It's nuts. You think of if you've never been in jail before or anything like that, you think all the movies you've ever seen, like, do I have to beat up the biggest guy I've ever seen?
Shawshank Redemption has its 25th anniversary. So the guys are with their clothes,
and
the one guy
that's
pees
old school
himself.
prison, but it's kind of like that, and it's very aggravating. I mean, there's a lot of anxiety that comes along with getting to prison for the first time. You don't know.
Well, especially you're 18 at the time.
Yeah, I was a kid.
And you're a DUI. You're not gangbanging fool.
But I'm right on the yard with everybody else.
Right.
That's because I'm waiting to go to camp. So I'm waiting on the yard like everybody else. And I walked out, and the first thing I see is like a guy kissing another guy through the fence.
Aww.
Yeah, it was
romance. See, there's love up there.
Yeah, there is. There's love to be found in the prison yard.
Is that
Anybody
right?
lonely? Just
Becca?
throw a brick
Is
through a
that right?
window and wait for the cops.
Am I doing that right?
It's like
No,
that. That's a
okay.
gang. You just made a gang sign.
I did.
You trying to get me beat up, man? What are you
Shit,
doing?
I'm not trying to punk nobody.
Get me
Right,
stabbed.
is that the right term, punk? Nope, I don't want to punk anybody.
Kinda.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll work on it.
Okay, I need help. All right, so you go in there. Now, what about the guys that are hardened criminals, been in and out of the joint? They're just kind of on cruise, right? They're not
there's
adapting.
inmates and there's convicts. That's how they kind of separate. The difference between the two, like the guys that are new are still learning the ropes, haven't done much time. But then you've got the guys.
Those are inmates.
Yeah.
Convicts.
Those are labels that we put on ourselves.
Okay, so so a guy that's new to the prison
Yeah,
system.
he's a fish. He's an inmate.
Got it.
Kind of synonymous there.
All right. So what about What's a convict?
A convict is more of a term of respect for somebody that's done a lot of time. They're set in their ways. They have their own little program. They call it the program. You know, it's counterintuitive. You think that you'd be doing something different to break up the monotony every day, but you don't. You try to do the same thing every day the same way, and it makes the days blur. It makes them blur together, and next thing you know, it's been 5 years. You know what I mean? And it sounds crazy, but that's how it works. Like, it really does.
I remember talking to an older guy, like actually probably around my age.
Yeah.
I'm 54 now, and I'm old. And the guy who's in the joint, he said he just looked at the ground. You know, you don't make eye contact, things like that.
I mean, that's a scary way of looking at it, but like.
But what's the rules of the road like that?
There aren't any. I mean, it's the same as it would be out here. You know, if you're walking down the street and you're just staring at somebody as they walk by, they'll probably be like, "Hey, what the fuck's your problem?" You know what I mean? If you're looking at them like a creepo, but you know, or if you like an eye patch or something, and you're just bug-eyeing people. And I'm not saying anything about you personally, Tony. I'm just no, I'm kidding. But,
It's all good. All right, so let me ask you this.
it's the way you look at somebody, and I knew people from inside then, and
Because
it
of your juvie
helped.
days.
Yeah, well, from the streets, and I happened to know a guy who on the yard they called him Fatty, and his real name's Darren.
You know, they fat shame people in prison.
He's
Fat
6'7". I knew the tallest guy, the biggest guy. He was like 380 pounds.
Oh, we
I knew
want
the
him on
biggest
our
guy
team.
the yard. Yeah, he's my friend. So
Yeah.
it kind of made things a little easier for me.
Mason, what go ahead.
Giant.
And this is kind of to both of you. Tony's experience as a judge and a lawyer, and then your experience meeting guys
Yeah.
who've been through the court system. Ever feel like a jury got the verdict wrong? Do people complain about?
Well, I
the
didn't go to
jury
trial.
system?
I never went to trial, and that's something that I can't identify with because with a DUI, with a death, it's kind of open and shut. Like, they have blood draw from me. They have I basically admitted that I did it because, it was my buddy. So I didn't think it was going to be that harsh of a sentence, but I will say that there is a camaraderie between, there's a unspoken, if I walk into a bar, I know who a cop is, straight up, just by the way their demeanor, you know what I mean? And if I meet somebody like Tony, I know that he's in the criminal justice system, he deals with any type of legal stuff whatsoever, there's things I can say to him that he's going to understand, and vice versa. He knows that he can talk to me a certain type of way, and a lot of people probably won't understand what we're talking about, but there's that, I don't know what to call it.
Well, let's go back to
We're homies,
the time.
just off
Exactly.
jump.
That's right, man.
You know what I'm saying?
All right.
You know what I'm saying?
So don't fuck with me.
Yeah, straight up.
Anyway, so more importantly, we got the PSIs, and you said people come up to you, but
Yeah.
I presume not everybody in the prison, because there's like 3,000.
You're approached
wait,
by-
1 second. There's like 2,000 or 3,000
Yeah.
people up at High Desert, by Indian Springs, give or take a little bit,
It's
right?
supposed to be your cellmate.
Right.
As soon as
Okay,
you
so-
move, if I'm in a cell already and they move some new guy in that I've never seen or heard of or whatever, I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm Luke, I'm Steve. Okay, Steve, you got your PSI, bro?
Right.
It's just asked off jump. You're asked the second you move into a cell, whether you got your PSI or
Right,
not.
so
If
then
he
let's-
doesn't,
So then let's go to the skin color thing.
yeah.
So let's say, for example, you're new at the prison, you're an inmate, not
Yeah.
a convict, and there's a table of blacks and you're white, and that's the only place to sit, and you sit down.
No, you don't sit down.
Why, and who tells you this if you're new?
If you're a new guy, they give you the riot. It's the riot act. They'll tell you when you move into that cell. If a guy moves into my cell and he doesn't know any better, I'm supposed to put him up on that stuff. So it can actually reflect on me as an inmate if I don't put him up on teach him what the rules are. Like, hey, this is what we do. This is where we sit. This is where we don't sit. You don't live with these people. You're allowed to talk to them. Blah 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 blah. And it's if he doesn't follow that stuff, then it comes back to me as well. Like.
When you say it comes back to you, what could happen to you?
Like, hey, Luke, what's up with your celly, man? That's how it's asked to
Do
me.
you ever have to take a beating or anything like that? Or does it depend on
I
what they
know,
do?
never.
What about, for example, when we were talking yesterday, one of the things we talked about is and we put on the promo, boots and suits to the.
Oh, suited and booted is
Suited
just a
boot.
term that's used. It's not really said openly, but like it's a term that's used when talking about like situations that would happen. Well, what if this happens? I'll be suited and booted. That means suited is just dressed up. Boots, put boots on because we're ready to go get it. Just be dressed, ready to fight.
Be ready to fight, and you
Yeah.
fight with your own. You're on team your skin color.
Yeah.
So if I'm white, I'm on the whites. You're black, you're on the
Yeah.
blacks. You're Hispanic, you're on the Mexicans, as we call
Yep.
them. They call them Mexicans, even if they're Honduran, Nicaragua, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and we let them work that out. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, because there's different factions within each race, and it's just they sort their own out. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So is there a hierarchy within the race?
Of course, I mean there'll always be one guy or a couple guys that have been there longer than everybody else, or you know what I mean. If you're not gang affiliated, if you're gang affiliated, obviously, they have their own hierarchies and stuff, but, there's always somebody that kind of takes charge. Typically, it's whoever's been there the longest.
What about what if you've been there 15 years, I've been there 10, but I'm a badass and I want to fight everybody or something
Well,
like
then
this?
handle your business. I'm gonna stay out of that because I don't want to go to the hole.
Right, but
I want to do my time as easy as I possibly can.
is that most people's theory when they're
Yeah.
there? Even
Yeah.
the badasses.
Yeah, nobody wants to do rough time. Like everybody wants to do it nice and easily and be left alone. But sometimes they just, you never know. You never know. Especially people that have been in for a very long time. They have their own way of doing things. They might have been uprooted from a yard they'd been on for 10 years, and now they're down here and they don't like the way the unit goes and everything. They're used to things being a certain way. Sometimes situations are orchestrated on purpose. The convict's way of looking at things is very contrary to the way a person on the streets would look at it. As a convict in there towards the end, having been down so long, I thought to myself, like, I have the ultimate control here. I do. I am in control of every situation. And they're like, what? You can't. I was like, if I want a bed move, I can get it right now.
And could you?
Yeah.
'Cause you've been
Just
there.
punch somebody in the face.
Right.
I'll go to the hole. Cool.
Now
I
let
don't
me ask you
care.
this.
But
Would you
that was what
punch-
I wanted, right?
If you punch somebody in the
Seems
face.
very counterproductive, but like if I didn't want to live where I was, there's a way to get out of it.
Right. So
And
if
you take control and do that. And
what about punching somebody in the face of the same skin color? Does that happen? Or-
Yeah.
Okay. So
We can have a disagreement. If me and you are on the tier and we disagreed about something, we can go in the room and it's very old school. We can go in the room and maybe chunk them about it. We just fight. But when it's over, it's over. Maybe sometimes there's rules like no face shots. It's only body shots or something, and you know what I mean. But afterwards, we're still
That's cool.
yeah. We might not be the best of friends for the rest of
Right.
but we're still part of the same car. And
So what happens if you want to fight me and I'm like, hey man, I don't want to fight. I'm okay.
that's kind of
First of all,
between us.
For
It
example,
depends.
like stand up. I'm 5'4", you're
Well, I mean-
6'1". I'm gonna do.
Well, you
you're
really
gonna
are.
kick
You
my-
really are short.
I am. I got one eye. People, help me out.
What
Help
do
me
you
out.
got your wallet on you? What's
no,
up,
I mean,
man?
no.
I can't do that.
Now, in prison, I should go fuck you. I'm not gonna give you my wallet, right?
I mean,
Or should I go?
if I ask you
or
for
should
your
I
wallet,
or should I just do this
well, if you do that, there's going to be consequences and repercussions.
to me
Yeah.
or to you?
No, not to me.
Yeah, to me.
to you.
So why don't you explain to the
gist
people-
of the gist of it is it's not about me being taller than you. It's about whether or not I'll stand up for myself, whether or not you'll stand up for
There you
yourself.
go.
Because
Yeah.
there are plenty of guys that are in there, as bad as prison can be. There are guys in there that don't care about stupid stuff like a technicality like height.
Right.
That doesn't mean
Well,
anything.
there's some badass little guys.
Very true. Very true.
But what it comes down to is you better stand up for
if
yourself.
you'll stand up for yourself, there are other people that are going to stand with you.
And they respect you.
They're
for
not
that.
going to let you get punked out just because you're shorter than the guy trying to punk you.
Right. Or
'Cause that is
bigger, or
bullshit.
bigger
And he'll look
versus
like
small.
he just looks like a bully
Right.
at that point. You know what I mean?
So-
If you'll stand up for yourself, other people will stand with you.
So if you go to prison, advice is stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
All right,
And
Lucas, we got a question
Yeah.
for you talking about movies. You ever seen the movie Shot Caller?
I have not seen the movie Shot
A
Caller.
film who goes to prison kind of for a similar reason for you. But
Did he look? Was he strikingly handsome like me, or?
Of course
You know
not.
what?
Never.
Striking
I just.
person.
Oh, okay. All right.
So what?
No, but the question is, if you haven't seen the movie, the prison system, punishment versus rehabilitation. What's the balance there? What's the goal? What's the
The truth of the matter is, there is no rehabilitation in prison.
And that's,
Straight
I'm
up.
glad that question
Straight-
came up because
straight
we
up.
were going to talk about programming. And we call it, and they call it programming, meaning what? What's programming?
There are jobs in prison, but I mean, like the last one I had, I was the barber in the unit I was in. I made like $6 a month, and after they took out their room and board, because it's almost like taxes, they take out room and board, victims compensation, and that's whether or not you have a victim that, if you owe any restitution or not. Like they just take out a certain amount. I don't know how much of it I got after their deductions, but it wasn't much. It was chump change. It mattered not whatsoever. The only reason people have jobs is so they can get their good time. That's it.
So
And-
in the state prison system, you don't do a day for a day, and you hear
No.
about that. Like California, I hear is like crazy. Like you get 80% off your time and
Yeah,
craziness.
that's insane.
But that's not here. How much time can you get off of your sentence?
It's like 12 days a month.
All right,
For every
so about
30
a
days that
third.
you're in prison, that you're out of trouble and you have a job, I think you get 12 days off the back of your sentence.
So
And they
theoretically- yeah, so
they calculate that
theoretically-
in when you get there.
Yeah, you get a 3-year sentence. You could be out in 2 if you play by the rules.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, for example, you said there's jobs or there's a barber.
Yeah.
What about cooking and kitchen and all that stuff?
There's people that work in the kitchen.
Does that count as a job?
It does.
And-
It does. Anything. Yard labor, which is you're just going out there. It's just anything that can find for people to do. A lot of times you'll be out there with a rake just raking rocks. every day. The
Yeah,
next
'cause
day
I've
you
been
rank them
to
a
high
different
desert.
direction, and the next day you rank them a different direction. Honestly, and you're getting chump change, but it's better than doing nothing. And but there's no like rehabilitation. There's no counselors that are helping you with anything like that unless you're under a certain age and you can go to high school. Like
That
you
was a-
don't have a high school diploma, there's nothing for you to do.
So you get a GED,
You can, yeah.
and you can do some of these jobs.
Yeah, which are
But there's not like what I thought there would be, counseling like for violence, domestic violence,
oh no.
none of that stuff.
No.
Right. Do we have a question over here, Becca?
Oh no, sorry, I was just saying. Someone asked why you're wearing an eye patch again.
Why am I wearing an eye patch? Vegas lawyers makes me. No, actually, the reason I'm wearing an eye patch, not that either, because I stood up. No, I did stand up for myself and kicked my ass. But anyway,
But
I got his
you're in
respect.
stripe. He's good to go now.
All right, we're good. We're all
So
cool.
to summarize, there's
Oh.
not rehabilitation.
There
You're not
isn't,
going
and-
there
and-
learning
and-
to be a dentist.
No, they're not teaching any trades.
No college
There's
classes?
there are college classes. There are.
Okay.
And but I mean they're like Psych 101 or Sociology 101. It's a bunch of garbage classes. You're not going to get a college degree in prison. It's not going to happen unless you got enough money to pay for it.
Oh,
But
so
I
it's
don't know where
not
you're
like you
getting
can
this
get through the prison free classes that
No.
you're going to, if you're there for 15, 18 years,
Yeah.
that you can take, get equivalent of a 4-year college degree or even a 2-year associate. That ain't happening.
I doubt it. Not
No.
with the classes they offer. It's crap. I looked at it and it's only if you're under 25 for the college stuff. I know it was if you're under 25, you get like a certain number of classes for free or something like
And
that.
that's it.
Yeah, it's crap. It's garbage. There's nothing. Yeah, there are no. The only programs that they do have that I know for fact are like on SDCC's yard, Indian Springs. They have drug classes and stuff you can take. The Oasis program.
That's right. There was a
And
class,
that's
68.
90% of the people that are in that got caught. They have a dirty from prison. They got a dirty UA in prison. But
Well, that's a good segue.
Yeah.
What about dope in prison?
what about it?
How do you get it? Who has it?
I had for a long time in there. I had a $100 a day habit.
A habit of what?
Heroin or meth.
How the
either.
hell you get $100 worth of heroin a day?
It comes in
Various means?
by various means.
Now,
Trust me, it's as prevalent in there, if not more, than it is on the streets. And whatever something would cost on the streets, add a zero. That's what it costs in prison. A $10 bag of weed in prison is $100.
And where do you get $100 from? If you're making $6 a month as the
Well, I
barber.
was tattooing.
All right, we'll come to tattooing. We can bounce around
Just
here all
telling
day.
on myself.
We can
We're never go back.
Well, yeah,
We're going to be hip to all of my
Well,
tricks.
you're off paper,
I'm
right?
kidding. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done.
And I'll
Speaking
pay-
of though, what if I have a warrant? Can you help me out?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
You
just-
got my new
just
buddy,
checking.
my new friend,
Checking.
pals.
Hey!
Yay! So,
I'll be wearing the eye patch next.
yeah, exactly. Whatever works. I sell whatever we can use to sell a better deal.
really-
So you make $6 a month. Where are you getting $100 a month from?
Well,
I mean, for example, are people putting money on your books?
I'm
Or-
tattooing, and those people are paying for tattoos. Yeah.
And now, when
That's
they pay you, how are you getting paid?
either
Dope, cash,
commissary, either commissary. There's no cash on the yard, but either commissary or they call it street to street. Like I, call my people or they'd call theirs, and I just give my buddy, a number. They'd write a letter, and your girlfriend would call my girlfriend and say, hey, yeah, I got $100 for Luke, and just go drop it off on the street. Meet me at the McDonald's on Sarah and Decatur and whatever, and just go drop off $100 and
And then they would put that
let
money
me
on
know. Yeah.
Okay, so
Either put the money on my books, or she'd know, like it'd go towards her rent or whatever. Like people actually help their people out on the streets by what they're doing in prison.
and that's called street to street.
Yes.
So basically, there's trades if you have skills that are needed.
Yeah.
So barber, tattoos, what else would be valuable?
That I learned in prison.
No, not just for you,
Oh.
but anybody.
Oh,
To get street to street money flowing.
metalworking.
What's that?
Oh, I was
Metalworking.
saying metalwork. Yeah, like sharpening a shank. I'm kidding.
Well, no, we did. That's another
What?
topic. I got the tattoos.
Metalworking.
Well, actually, and to go back to the question about
Yeah.
shot caller, my understanding of a shot caller is when you have the hierarchy
Yeah.
of who's in charge, a shot caller says that guy needs his ass whooped and put in line. Is that a term you're familiar with?
Yeah, but I mean,
Or is that more of an old school term that doesn't?
it is an old school term. I'm pretty sure you heard about the indictments that were just handed down.
And for the people listening, actually, this was, I think, was it this week or last week?
Last week,
They're
yeah.
A-dubs, they're in Warriors. They indicted people in prison, they being the district attorney's office. I think it was like 16 to 20 of them. There's
There's
a
a
bunch.
lot of them. There was a lot
And
of
so-
them.
Laundry guy?
Huh?
Someone said
Laundry
laundry guy.
guy? Laundry. People work in the laundry. Who is it?
It says Scott Carmichael.
Oh, laundry guy. I mean, you can make. Yeah, it's a hustle on the tier. Everybody has a hustle, or you should if you're trying to do time and do it easily. There are guys that on the tier that will wash your laundry for you.
Fucking love that.
Yeah.
I don't want to wash my own
Your drawers
laundry.
come back nice and crispy.
Oh.
Another question here, in addition to kind of the separation by race, are gangs really that prevalent in prisons these days?
Yes, and to connect that with the shot caller thing, I'm all stammering. No, but yeah, it is.
You
an
don't
old
have to
school
give us
term.
any information about.
Yeah, I just yeah.
That's
There's
something
some
you
stuff. Yeah, quit trying to punk me out on TV here.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to put my foot
What
down.
do I do? No, that's Bernie Sanders. Never mind.
He knows it. I plead the fifth.
Exactly. I don't know nothing about nobody.
Yeah, I don't know anything. Yeah, all of this may or may not have happened. By the way.
Wait, what was the question, Mason?
Who?
What did we-
Gang prevalence.
Yeah, if they're on gangs on the street, they're going to be in gangs, on the yard, and the more time people do, they separate themselves into different factions. You do 15 years with the same guy, like we're us, and we call ourselves this, and that's how that stuff starts. I mean,
Well, let me ask you this. For example, Bloods and Crips,
yes.
two different black gangs.
See, that
How
I
do they-
can't,
what
I
do they-
don't
what
really
do
know
they-
much about.
Okay, so it's because you weren't associated
Yeah.
with them. So you were associated with the whites?
Yes.
Okay. So let's do this. I was tell you about a book I read about a guy that did a bunch of time, wrote a book called The Black Hand, Mexican Mafia.
Okay.
And they have that black hand tattooed on their chest. And, he talked about shanks, keystering, things like that. And why don't we explain what those terms mean?
Shank is anything that you would use to stab somebody. It's implemented anything. It could be a pencil. He got shanked. He got stabbed. That's what that means. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
So let me ask you this. How do you make these in prison?
I mean, the whole prison's made of metal
So
and concrete.
so what do you do?
Yeah, well, it's metal and concrete. You can either cut a piece of steel out of something, or you can take a chunk of concrete and bang them over the head with it.
What about then they
Club
say,
or a knife. Those
now
are your
they
two
say
options.
So what's the term keister mean?
That's keystering or taking it to the hoop,
Yep.
or putting it in the vault.
Oh, okay.
The
These
steel
are new
trap. There's
The
a lot
steel
of
trap?
Yeah,
Taking it to the hoop?
yeah. Put it in the
And
vault.
it ain't this. It
No,
ain't like, it's not
Kobe.
LeBron.
It's not Kobe.
No, it's not
No, it's
that.
not Kobe. It's it's put it in your in the back door,
And your sphincter.
right up in the booty. Huh?
What's
You're
that?
asking about keister and stuff?
No, what's that?
So is that Luke McWire?
They're
All
asking
right,
if it's me or
you're,
not.
You're
Yeah.
getting heckled. You're
Yeah.
getting heckled.
I knew I would be, for this, but
So what-
Another question too is that what have you seen a prison mate do that gave you respect for them that you didn't have before?
huh?
Gaining respect in prison.
Yeah. There was a kid that, and I'm not going to say his name, but there was a kid that I was in the Oasis program with.
What is the
And
Oasis program?
It's offender something. So it stands for
Oh,
something,
that's
but
it,
it's the drug
acronym.
program.
Okay.
I actually got two different dirty UAs in prison, both for heroin. And the second one, I refused the program of the drug treatment program the first time. I just said, screw it, just let me do my whole time. And the second time, I was like, I'm cool on the whole time. I'd rather be out there on the yard, so I chose the yard. And I get out there, and this kid was getting pressed up on by a homosexual. He wanted to get with this kid, and he was a youngster. He'd just come into prison and everything, and he came to me. He was like, what should I do? Well, you can't really tell them what to do. You have to let them sort it out on their own.
Like,
out,
road, but you
yeah.
gotta make your own choices.
Like, bro, he's like, well, do I do this and blah blah? And he mentioned like a team at some point. I'm like, we're not on a team, bro. Like, we're
That's not how this works.
not even playing the same game, obviously. You know what I mean? But he actually went and got a steel chair and chased that dude out onto the rec yard and binged him over the back of the head with it.
That's earning respect.
Hey, he did that. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, all right. you
Well,
know.
that goes into one of the segues you told me. One of the biggest questions you get asked is, what about gang rapes or rapes in prison?
Rape typically does not happen in prison. I'm sure it does here and there, but it's few and far between. There are way too many willing participants for anybody to ever be raped. It's pretty gross.
But when you say willing participants, is
Yeah.
it based on homosexuals or just people the heterosexuals will be having gay sex because they want sex?
I mean,
little bit of both, or?
I think there's a lot of hair splitting there because I mean, if in my opinion, because I never indulged, but a lot of guys in there do. I mean, if there's different views on it. Like, well, there's in the absence of females, hey, sow my wild oats. You know what I mean? But I don't, a lot of guys are like, ew, that's gross. I think that you had to have some kind of inkling in that direction to
So,
to
for
pursue that
example,
in any
once
way, shape, or
again,
form,
speaking
but-
of Shawshank Redemption,
Yeah.
he gets gang raped and all that.
Yeah.
That almost never happens.
No.
No,
No,
that's-
because they have their own that they're doing that with. You know what I mean?
there's
Yeah.
plenty available.
And that is an exception too to the whole like racial cars. The homosexual car, it's pretty mixed up. The gays
Meaning-
kind of only kick it with the gays. Yeah.
Oh, they only gays stay with gays.
Yeah,
Whether
pretty
you're
much.
whether
Like
you're
I know
one-
as a convict
one,
on the
two-
yard, like they weren't allowed, like a gay dude wasn't allowed to walk into my cell.
Why is that?
He had to knock on the door and like he'd stay outside because he's gay. If
But
he was,
is that
if he was a fag
just you, or was that
gay, whatever.
everybody?
That was pretty much everybody.
And that's the rules of the road.
Yeah, that's one of the rules in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you
If you're a
guys.
convict, like and it wasn't like a demeaning thing to them. It was more like you're doing your own thing. I don't know.
I'm not
I
in-
guess in a way it is, but a demeaning thing. But they weren't allowed to. Like I didn't sit at a table with a homosexual. I sat at the table with the fellas.
Right. It
with
was
the
the
homeboys,
once
you know
again
what I
the
mean?
rules of the road.
Yeah.
And the gays
That's
sit
how
at
it
their
goes.
table.
Yeah. Yeah. straight up.
Mexicans sit at their table. I mean, it's the rules.
Yeah.
And everybody abides.
So we got a question now, and this is kind of talking about like alternatives to prison time. What are each of your thoughts on stuff like community service, giving back to the community that you harmed, versus locking someone up?
I like that, and that's one of the areas I wanted to get into today. I don't know. I don't know what some of the answers to those questions would be, but I know that there's a lot of people in prison that probably shouldn't be there for the crimes they committed. I think it's ridiculous.
Let alone the length of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this stuff, especially a DUI death, where a friend of yours dies, once again,
It's not like
with
there's
respect to the
18
family
years
of your-
old. It's not like I'm a crazy alcoholic that's driving around every night waiting to kill somebody.
Well, and
but
with
the flip
respect
side
to-
of that,
yeah,
flip
the
side of that,
family.
Steve died.
yeah,
There's a death involved.
right.
And while I have to live with that for the rest of my life, he never gets to come back. Where do you find the happy medium there? Like, because they just slammed me into the prison system where I developed a drug habit I didn't have before. You know what I mean? Like and there's no fixing that. Like I have to deal with that
and
now.
4 to 17 is pretty heavy.
That's as long as I'd been alive on the top end of that
right.
at the time,
I mean,
basically.
that to me is just crushing somebody's life.
And when you're that young, I looked at it. When I was that young, I looked at it like, man, this is devastating. This is forever.
Right,
And-
17, 18.
So it really screwed my head up, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do when I get up there? I was very nervous about going to prison because I'd been locked up as a kid, but it's way different. This is the big leagues. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oof, what am I going to do? I was terrified. I ain't gonna lie. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that would tell you that there isn't some level of anxiety or fear there is full of shit. If you're human, there's fear there.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? And it was a trip. I think that because there is no rehabilitation in prison. There are no programs where you're learning to become a productive member of society. These guys get out of prison. I like to say that they're well-fed and ill-prepared.
Well, that's the biggest problem I have with the prison system, is that there aren't programs to get people back into society productively.
They
So
don't
therefore,
know. You're not
whether
yeah.
it's teach them to be a chef, teach
Yeah.
them to
There's none of
be,
that.
a car
There's
mechanic,
no trades.
a trade.
They're
you know what I mean?
getting
You
guys for
need a
those jobs
skill.
that have already done those types of jobs. I got a job in there as a welder, working outside the fence because I graduated high school with a G6. You know what I mean? With welding certificates. That's the only reason I got that job. They didn't teach me how. They found a guy that already knew how to do it, so they could just slam him in that job and not have to hire somebody from the street. I would assume.
Because what do most people do when they go out to the street if they don't have those skills?
And they don't realize that when they
They
get
go
out,
back into it.
you now can't get an apartment because you're an ex-felon. You have no credit or horrible credit because you've been gone for so long or fell when you
Right.
were really young. I got out with no credit, which is worse than bad credit. There's no record but nobody told me that. There's no record of you ever having paid for anything or
car,
paid anything
part
off.
of it,
So
best.
I go to
Credit
get a loan.
card.
Oh, you're burnt.
Yeah.
You can't get a car. You can't get finance for anything. So if you don't have family or somebody that's willing to help you out, you are screwed. And what's the only thing you can fall back on? Well, probably the people that you know now that you've hung out for the last 10 years every day with.
Or even back
Ex-felon.
on the streets that you were running with prior.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
For
That's
some of the other
all
people.
you can do. That's out of just straight up not having anything else to fall back on.
Well, that's where you got to change. That to me, that's where some stuff has to
Yeah,
change.
and as taxpayers, I would be very concerned with like where my money's being spent just to house them and create in essence more of a monster, because what are you doing with them? There is nothing to do in there. A lot of this stuff comes out of just straight up boredom. I like we talked about yesterday, cutting a piece of steel out of a bed frame or something like that. Like, I was like, I could cut a piece of steel out of there, no problem. Like 2 days. He's like, 2 days?
I'm like, that's a lot of
well, when you got
patience.
nothing to do.
For 10 years.
Yeah,
What the hell?
2 days ain't
so
shit.
it's like that part, like a
Yeah.
Shawshank Redemption,
Yeah.
when he's digging the hole. I mean,
Yeah,
you
I
got
mean,
nothing but time.
you got nothing
who,
else
who
to
gives
do.
a shit?
Yeah.
I'm just, you got nothing to do.
Yeah,
At least it
there's
keeps your
nothing else
time
to
busy.
do.
Well, one
and
thing, go ahead.
It's getting bad now. I mean, you used to be able to go out to the yard every day. When I first went to prison, you got yard at a certain time in the morning after they were done serving breakfast. They opened the yard, and you were allowed to go out there. They had boxing programs. Michael Dokes was
really?
Yeah, he was in there.
Champion.
Yeah, he a heavyweight contender. He fought Holy. I remember watching him, on the replays on ESPN because I'm not that old. As old
Not
as-
like me, no.
Yeah,
I
but-
can't even remember that far.
he fought Holyfield. This guy, he had a boxing ring in there, had it donated and stuff. That's gone. They took that. They took, there's no more weight pile at different yards and everything. There's
So the classic lifting the weights and getting
Oh
buff.
yeah, that's out. That's out. They took all that away. You're not playing handball really. They took away all of that stuff for guys to go out and do that was at least semi-productive. If it wasn't like some type of program that's going to ready you for the streets, they took that stuff away. Now you're just slammed in a unit all day long. You don't even get lunch anymore. They don't serve lunch. You go to breakfast, you get a bag lunch with like 2 pieces of bread and a slice of bologna and maybe an apple. That's your
Jesus.
lunch. Like they've cut back on so much stuff. I don't know, where all that money
Well, it was my
went.
life of crime ideas.
Yeah,
you
don't
gotta
do it.
have
You're
lunch. You
gonna-
gotta get
yeah,
some
you're
fresh
gonna-
tomatoes, a little mustard. Hey, let's go to your tattoos.
What's that?
Let's go to your tattoo
Okay.
talk.
Yep.
So, what do you use to tattoo somebody?
Well,
I mean, well, you got a few tats here.
yeah, this one's this one's printer ink that was stolen from the school. This one is I think this one is baby oil. I know
Baby
I
oil?
have shoe rubber.
Baby oil
I have
makes
chest pieces.
baby oil makes ink.
They burn it. You burn it.
See,
Anything
look,
that will
this is-
burn, that puts off a black sooty flame, that black soot that comes off of a flame is literally just carbon.
Okay.
And if you can collect that on the underside of a bed or in a brown paper bag, anything, you mix that with water, a little bit of alcohol or some soap, something to
But what do
break
you
down the
poking it on the skin with?
a needle of some sort. Anything that's thin enough to poke into the skin. Sewing needles attached to other, stronger pieces that'll, keep it straight. I've seen people use bread ties, coax cable, the spring out of a lighter or a clicker pen. You straighten that out, it makes a needle. I mean, it's almost impossible to take away everything that a person. They'll always be done in prison, but.
So I have to ask this question on behalf of my wife. Doesn't sound the most sanitary.
Oh hell no! I knew guys in there that used to like wipe the tattoo off with their hand and like wipe it on their pants. There's no gloves. There's, you pretty much that setup you're using on that guy you use just for him, and I would let the guys hold it in their cell. And everything I had that could tattoo somebody would fit in a cup that big. It would, yeah, with room to spare. It would rattle around in there.
And I don't wanna-
including the machine, including the ink, including batteries and everything would fit in this
Batteries?
cup. And I could tattoo with what I could fit in this cup. I could tattoo your whole body.
And it looks like you got your tats look nice. Looks like you do good work.
Well, these aren't me. These are
Oh,
other people
okay.
that tattooed me. Yeah.
Oh, at the prison.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Mostly. I have a couple from out here, but almost all of mine were done inside. Yeah.
And I presume this is not permitted by the prison system.
It is not permitted by the prison system.
And they see
because
somebody,
of for unsanitary reasons. That and the gang stuff.
right? And I presume somebody comes in with no tats, and 5 years later you get a bunch of tats.
Yeah.
Do they get written up?
They
or
don't really know. I mean, if you get caught with a tattoo, you do get written up. But
Interesting. So let me ask you this. I presume you don't have to don't answer what you don't feel comfortable saying, but I presume some tattoos have symbols
many
to other
tattoos have-
inmates.
yes.
Is
And
there
a lot of
one
the
that- or anything-
stereotypical ones are crap. They used to mean certain things and they don't anymore. I know a lot of old school guys that have like barbed wire, for example, meant a certain, that you did a certain amount of time. And this is old school stuff. So like if you had a strand of barbed wire and whether or not it was connected was a big deal. Usually it was just the barbed wire, but if on the inside it'd be apart, meant that
Well,
you
yeah.
hadn't done, it just stopped at a certain point.
Oh,
If it was
stopped.
connected, it meant you did 5 or 10 years. I think it was 5 years for each strand of barbed wire. That was just a time thing. The elbow thing with the spider webs, like being trapped, the whole spider web thing about being trapped, like that meant you did a certain number of, or you had a life sentence or something like that.
What about the famous, I've heard about the spider web on
Yeah.
the elbow.
And that
I remember
meant-
one time I seen a young guy, like
Yeah.
in his 20s. I'm like, that's,
Well, if he had a certain type of sentence, but nowadays those have all become
That's-
pretty cliche.
Okay.
And guys come into prison when they already have it, and you're like, yeah, you didn't do any time. It's the old school guys that had
Okay.
that type of stuff done. I had to know, and I had to be up on all of the political types of tattoo work because it would fall back on me if a guy got a piece that he was not supposed to get if he hadn't earned it yet. But
Okay,
yeah.
so whatever that symbol is, we won't mention
Yeah,
it.
I'm not going to mention what symbols are or
But
how you get them.
you
But
tatted on me, and it's like, then somebody else goes, he didn't deserve that tat.
that
I'm in
could
trouble,
reflect on
and
me.
you're in trouble.
Yeah, because after I'd been tattooing for a while, I'm supposed to know that stuff.
You did, you know.
So
the
of
rules
all
of
the people,
road.
yeah, that's hip to what all that stuff means, I had to be. Because a guy'd come to me, hey, I want this or I want that, but like, I can't put that on you, bro. You haven't earned that, or you know what I mean? There's
Right.
and it's subtle differences, you know.
All right, well, let's get ready to wrap this up. We've been going for a while. So let me ask you this. You get out, how are you doing as a person now?
I'm actually doing okay. It wasn't always like that, but I had a lot of support, and family's there, yeah, but most of my support came unbelievably so from inmates, from ex-cons that are out here now on the streets, and they're doing well too.
The guys that have tried to get away from that lifestyle.
Yeah, that
Or
have
tr-
gotten away from that
or
lifestyle.
have, not even
Yeah.
trying.
You know,
And they're trying to do
and
the right thing.
they're doing their own thing, and it just we help each other out. We help each other, you know, because it's tough. It really is tough.
Not easy getting a job as a felon.
No.
Period.
No.
Not easy, as you mentioned. I didn't even think about that until you said it yesterday. Getting an apartment.
Yeah.
You know, and people just don't trust you, and then there's some that
You
do.
can't even rent a house. You can have all the cash in the world. The guy I'm living with now, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but he has no credit. Who's going to rent to him? They check your credit. He can't rent a house.
Becca, we didn't get a house. Tina.
How crazy is that to
we're
have a
gonna buy
couple
house, we're gonna
$100,000
rent
in the
it. We
bank?
got
You can't rent a
renters.
house because you can't pass a credit check. Why? Because you're an ex-felon.
Right.
Because you never had an opportunity to build credit. You know, he can't even go to a bank, and I know a couple tricks now, but he can't go to a bank and even ask him for like a
Oh, the
small
banks-
loan to put somewhere, I'll pay off the interest now. Just put it here, put a bunch of penalties on that savings account so I can, blah, blah, and they still don't want to
No,
do it.
banks are the worst. They're
Because
corporate,
you
man.
don't want to, so what are you going to do with it? You got all this cash, and you're homeless. You got a bunch of money and you're homeless. Why? Because you did a bunch of time. You get out of prison, you can't balance a checkbook.
I was going to say, because they're not teaching any financial skills.
Hell no, they're not.
No, they're not teaching anything.
That's the type of stuff they need to teach inmates. How to
Right.
get out here and live and just the basics of human
Well,
living.
he said even
Especially if you
filling
went
out
in
the-
young. You don't have those types of tools in your toolbox, man.
Filling out the apartment app,
Yeah.
let alone telling them you're going to get denied.
Yeah.
If you get a cosigner or something or whatever. All right. Any other questions we got out there, gang?
I think that's all of them that are up there now.
Well, I really want to thank you, Lucas, for coming
Hey,
on
not
the
a
show,
problem.
spending your time with us. Vegas Lawyers, wrapping it up here at Red Chimp Studios. Have a great week. We'll see you next Friday. And we'll get Lucas back here another time for some more talk.
Oh.
Have a good weekend.
You guys so you're paying me again? Or what?
Shh. X-Night, the people still on.
Give me your wallet.
Hey,
How much-
don't talk to me.
What's
Lawyer up. TheVegasLawyers.com. Lawyer up.